did start out here in Staten Island, CSI as a psychology major. I quickly realized that I wasn't going to be doing psychology for 5 to 10 years, so I quickly had to make a change and figure out what I wanted to do. So while I was at CSI, I took a few business courses and realized that was something I was very interested in. So I went ahead and started evaluating my options. So the way my personality is, if I want to do something, I want to do it as much as I can, get the very best. So CPA quickly was on my radar. And after that, I said, okay, what can I do? To get the CPA, I realized there was a 150 credit requirement. You need a certain amount of accounting credits. I had about 0 accounting credits at that time, or maybe a few. So then I went on to get an MBA at Rutgers. I had to take a GMAT, get introduced to everything about business that I can, learn about it very quickly, and take a 14-month program that gets you the MBA and also qualifies you to take the CPA exam. So while I was at Rutgers, I got an internship at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I did 3 months in Boston. I worked, and also in Toronto, and it was a great experience. I'll be happy to talk about that, if you guys have any questions. And after that, I finished my MBA program, and then I went on to work full-time at PwC in the investment management practice, which means we audit hedge funds, mutual funds, private equity funds, employee benefit plans, anything to do with the financial industry, pretty much we do it. So at that point, I worked for 2 years as an audit associate. I was working on clients such as JP Morgan, W Capital Partners, Boney Mellon, basically the biggest mutual funds. AXA was another one of my clients. And that experience was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the exposure you get at a big firm is pretty much unbelievable. You talk to people that are very high up at companies that you read about in the news that day. So it's very exciting. There's a lot of opportunities there, and I'll be happy to discuss that if you guys have questions. So this year, I left PwC. I went out on my own. I started my own firm called Athelon Wealth Management, based here in Staten Island. And I do investment management for individuals, small businesses. So pretty much went from the accounting side to the finance side, which is one of the freedoms that you get when you're a CPA and you have that license. So it's a great opportunity and a great credential to get. So I'd like to open it up to questions about CSI, about MBA, PwC, Big Four interviews, anything you want to know about. I don't hold anything back, so I'll be happy to discuss anything that you guys have questions about. So starting your own business as well, that's a whole other adventure, and CPA exam, it's all open. So what questions do you guys have? In the back.
What was your experience in terms of the number of hours that you spent working on? Was it the same as what?
You're asking during busy times?
Yeah, like how did you spend quality of life when you were at PwC?
Okay, well, it varies, to be honest with you. During the off season, which is typically any time other than January to about approximately April, it could be 50 hours a week. It could be a regular work week. During busy season, it could go all the way up to 100, 110 hours, depending on what kind of clients you're working on, depending on what industry you're in, and so forth. It's when you go to a big firm, you're making a commitment and you're making a decision that's the type of exposure that you're looking for, and also that's the time that you have to set aside to do that. So it's a balance. You get the exposure and you get the experience and you get that golden name on the resume that everybody's looking for. But at the same time, you do have to put the work in, and they have very high expectations. The clients you're dealing with are the biggest clients out there, and if even one client leaves your firm at one of the big four, that could be a big issue. So they expect you to be there, they expect you to contribute, and there's times where the weekend you're going to spend auditing financial statements, and then that Monday that you want it off, you're going to spend auditing financial statements. So it happens, but at the end of the day, I can say that I've worked at PwC and I can use that until the end of my career. And it's the gold standard. The big four firms are all very well known, very well respected. And when people ask me, because my firm is relatively new, they ask me where have you worked before, I can say PwC and everybody knows what I'm talking about. So to answer your question, it varies from about 40, 50 hours when it's less busy to, it could be 90 to 100 plus, you know, because when an issue pops up with a big hedge fund or a big mutual fund, it's usually affecting all of the funds within that family, for example. So one of the fund families that I was involved with, there were 86 funds in that group. So if one fund had a problem, all 86 of them did. So you can do the math. So if it takes 20 minutes to fix one fund, multiply that by 86, that's what it takes to fix that issue. So, and you know, you just have to put the time in. So, but the payoff is great. I have to say that the payoff is very significant, and you know, you get a reward for putting that time in. So did they answer your question? Any other questions?
Why did you leave PwC?
Well, a few reasons. One of the reasons that... What's that?
Repeat the question.
Okay, what was the question? What was the reason for my leaving PwC? I felt after my 2 years that I received a good amount of exposure in many different areas. I audited mutual funds, hedge funds, private equity, and employee benefit plans. So I got a view of many different instruments, many different products, and I think it was a very well-rounded sort of vision of everything that's out there. I decided to take that experience and go off on my own because I felt like there was a necessity within financial services to provide service without commissions, without referral fees, without conflicts of interest, anything like that. And surprisingly, that's not the norm. It's very rare to deal with a financial firm that does that. And I felt there was a need, I had the experience, and I wanted to go ahead and put forth an effort to fill that gap. So that's why I started my own firm. It's you know, it's growing steadily. And you know, it was great to take the PwC experience and transform it into starting your own company as well. Because after you've sat in the same room with the CFO, after you've dealt with fund accountants at JP Morgan and so on and so forth, you know, it's everything after that is not as scary. You know, after you've seen all the different situations that can arise in a business, you see how these financial instruments work, and you sort of get to know them inside out. Then you start to speak it as if it's a second language. So that's why I left. I wanted more independence. I wanted to provide services that would use all of my skills and knowledge. And you know, in an audit environment, you are using certain skills very much. But I wanted to use all my skills and really deliver as much as I can, and you know, provide value to whoever I can help out. Mark? I also realized after taking the MBA program and working at PwC how much, as a psychology student, I didn't know about finance. And it's amazing how much you can learn and how much you can grow over that time. So, you know, I just think the average person, how much help they would need to make investments properly. And a lot of people are sort of using brokers and doing other things, and they may not get the help that they need. So it was great to be able to take that knowledge and go forward with it and make something out of it.
How much of the entire process do you see? Like most of the time you're working on a very large client.
Right.
Sometimes you don't see the entire process from beginning to end. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. The question is, how much of the entire business process do you see as an audit associate? And it varies. It really, when you first start out, the assumption is that you know nothing. And even though you've probably had training, that's most likely going to be the case. It just doesn't transfer. I don't know why, but you know, all of the things that you sit there learning in a week, as soon as you get your first spreadsheet open, it all disappears, and you have to learn it from the start over again. And it's it all depends. It really, in the beginning, you're going to get the basics because your team has to learn to trust you. So you're going to get you might be sending out confirmations, you may be doing numbering pages, making some copies, very basic stuff. But you need to do these basic things very well, because anybody can make copies. But if you make the copies, you bind them, you put them in a folder, and you make it extremely presentable, you're going to set yourself apart, and you can get additional responsibilities. And the more you think, well, how can I make this better than the other guy, that's gonna help you stand out in the crowd, because at these big four firms, you're compared against your colleagues. So if this is good, but this is what your colleague did that's 10 times better, then you have to be better than this. And the more you take that into consideration and you think, how can I maximize the value of everything that I'm doing at any point, that's going to really pay off, and that's going to give you more exposure within the audit, within the team, and so forth. I can tell you, when I started out, I was doing confirmations. That's your first intern assignment or beginning associate assignment. So you do confirmations, you send them out. It's very basic, it's very tedious. Nobody wants to do it. That's why it's your responsibility. But after sending out hundreds of confirms, send them out, you get them back, log everything, make everybody happy, because those confirms are important. If you don't receive them back, you might not be able to sign on. So when your team trusts you with that, you deliver, you show them what you're capable of, and then you quickly get other responsibilities as you go. Now, during my 2 years, I've been in situations where my senior and my manager have gone on vacation. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happened. You have to make the most of it. And I had to sit there at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and figure out how can I solve my issues on my own as much as possible, so that when the senior manager get back, they're going to be just amazed at what they find, in a good way. So, in that respect, basically the access that you get and the responsibilities that you get are directly related to the effort that you put forth. And many times in the Big Four environment, it's noticed. People take notice very quickly. And if you're a superstar, you're going to stand out. Because there are people there that just want to be there, get the name on the resume, and leave. You know, after a year or so, people get their CPA license and they sort of venture off. But if you see Big Four in your future, a few years down the line, that's definitely what you have to do to get the additional exposure and see the whole audit. And at some point, you're going to be assigned a group of funds. For example, investment management, you'll be assigned a group of funds, and they'll say, these 3 funds are yours. You have responsibility from A to Z. That means you have to take it from start to finish, and any issues that arise, it's your responsibility to follow up, to be on top of it, and to make the client feel like they're getting the value of the name that's on the building that you're in. And that's how it works. I mean, nothing comes free, but if you work for it, you will reap the benefits. Any other questions? Nothing? About MBA, CPA, starting a business? Everybody knows everything. Okay. All right, well, I'll be around. If anybody has any questions, feel free. I like to tell it like it is, so whatever topic that you have questions on, this is the opportunity. You know, I really like to help people out. And like I said, if you want more information about the business side of putting together your own venture, things like that, you can go to athelonwealth.com. I put a lot of informational sources about investments and things like that, and that's another thing that you guys could look into as young prospective CPAs, is you got to take care of the marketing. You can spend years learning the accounting, but you always have to market, and interviews are one part of it, and your presence and how you present yourself to others, that's another big part of it. So, you know, while you're studying your accounting, you're learning the debits and credits, also think, how can I stand out? Because everybody in the room is going to know about the same debits and credits, right? But some people are going to be more successful than others. So you have to sit and think, how can I stand out in 5 or 10 years, wherever I am, having this knowledge that so many other people have? So that's a piece of advice that I'd kind of throw out there.